What's happening, guys? Buff Metal here with my good friend Sam from Night Nerves. What's going on, man? Introduce yourself.
I'm Sam. Like Justin said, I have a channel here called Night Nerves. It's a horror themed YouTube channel where we talk about books, movies, all things horror, basically.
But today we will be talking about something a little different for both of our channels. Really, I usually talk more extreme ends of metal. We're talking Kiss, nice and old school rock and roll vibes, and we're gonna debate. Maybe we're gonna just chit chat about the best and the worst of this band. They went through a lot of changes, and there was a lot of hits, man, and there was a lot of misses. And right off rip, dude, let's just get right into it. I'd like to ask you, would you go to a Kiss show in 2026?
Yeah, absolutely.
You would,
Absolutely.
despite the fact that it may be lip synced and I don't know if they play their instruments. Does that matter to you?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean that's a bummer if they're doing that. Yeah. That really changes. I
Dude,
don't know. I would be conflicted.
I'm not sure. Like, there's a part of me that is kind of like, well, I've heard some other like legacy acts who just don't sound great. I'm trying to think of one off rip, and I'm like, there is something admirable. Let's take. I mean, they sounded amazing. I say to this day, it was one of the best shows I ever saw. But Judas Priest, right? When I went to go see Judas
Love Judas
Priest,
Priest. Yeah.
dude, they crushed it. But when Painkiller came on, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Rob Halford, he was not hitting those notes. He was just not hitting them. But it
Yeah.
was almost cooler that you knew it was real. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like, dude, you're really like kind of being a little vulnerable. Like a lot of rock star ego, I don't think could handle that. Not being able to hit it like maybe you used to. So I always kind of admired that about the Priest. That despite everything, I mean, and they still rocked. You can't take that away. And he sounded good on everything else. So, but
Yeah. No, I mean, I think like in rock and in metal too, it's like the show is really it's about the energy that they're giving. And even if like, that they're playing a solo or they're hitting like a bad note, it's like I think that's part of the experience. And there's like I can't think of offhand, like, but there's certain well, Kiss, for example, I know a lot of people that prefer their live albums over their studio albums, and their live stuff sounds pretty polished, but there's a lot of bands that I can think of that like their live recordings, like maybe you heard a live recording first, first band that's coming to mind is Nirvana, and there's a live DVD that I had that a buddy had lent me and they do Aneurysm. It was the first time I'd heard them play Aneurysm, and it sounds like I don't know if you're familiar with that
one
song.
of their last shows, isn't it?
It's the DVD was called Live Tonight Sold Out, and it's one of like the greatest openings of a concert. So it like cuts together all this like tour footage, and then Kurt Cobain comes out and he's in scrubs.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
like
yeah.
like
That is
hospital
the one.
scrubs,
He's
and
like,
he's singing
"Come
and he
on
falls
over
over
to
and they
the
bring him out a
dance."
guitar and he just starts playing and his guitar sounds slightly out of tune. He's playing maybe a little sharp or something, but it just sounds so raw. And it took me a really long time to get used to the studio version of that song because I wanted it to be out of tune and pitchy.
Yeah, well, that's where the magic is, man, because it's real, And I think that's what really attracts like guys like me and you to this kind of stuff, right? Is that real and rawness? Why do I care about extreme metal? And fun fact, I mean, I don't think I've ever said it on the channel. I actually am a Nirvana fan, man. No shame in that game. I love Nirvana, dude. I never really talk about them because I don't think about them as much these days. But like when I was younger, dude, Kurt Cobain was my hero, as a small young kid, and dude, and just how badass it would be when he would go out and I might even be the same concert you're talking about when he was just done with Smells Like Teen Spirit, and they would just slam the instruments and mumble, and you'd be like, you can do that? You like that? You know what I mean? It would just kind of like blow your perception on kind of that side of rock and roll, mainstream rock and roll, and yeah, Kurt will always be a hero of mine.
Yeah, yeah, just the lack of fucks they gave and like just no cares. And it's like I mean they're like almost I say this sometimes, but they're like almost like one of the most punk rock bands without like labeling themselves as being punk rock because those guys just did not give a shit about anything. They just
Yeah, and I think people don't take Bleach, dude. That's a pretty raw, like nasty, like garage basement sounding album. You know what I mean? Where I think people, I don't even think Kurt himself wanted to necessarily be a commercial act. You know what I mean? I think that
No,
might have
no, he
been part of
didn't.
the
Yeah,
downfall. You know,
as
he
far
was
as
a
I know.
underground dude doing his thing, and it caught on. You know, and it's almost kind of reminds me of like Chuck Schuldiner or something in that way. You know what I mean? Where it's just like it wasn't really about that. He had a message and a kind of aura, you know, that was so unique to him, that it was only, that was it, you know. And I kind of feel bad he never got to fulfill, you know, you never got to see what happened with him. But in a way, I don't know, dude. I don't know if I'd want to. I almost feel like his story is perfect. Not that you wanted it to end that way, you know, but like there's a weird sense that it makes to me. I'm not sure if you know what I mean, but
Yeah, yeah, it's like that. I mean, like I think they've said in a song before, but like it's better to burn out
burn
than
out
fade
then fade
away.
away. Yep,
And
yep.
like knowing that's like a big thing. Like I always think of Seinfeld with this, but like knowing when you're like at the top and like when Jerry Seinfeld knew like I mean he could, do another season, get like tens of millions of dollars from the uh the studio, but he's like, nope, we're gonna call it here. We're at the top, like this is great and I don't want it to be bad anymore.
Yeah, total. And quit while you're ahead. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's
I
that
quit
I
with
love
her.
that Batman quote. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. You know, and
Absolutely.
that's true, man. I mean, yeah, you could say Kiss definitely became the by the '90s they became the villain. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
out of curiosity, man, do you have like a favorite member? Could you rank like the original lineup?
Oh man, it's really tough. Like I've gone through phases too where I feel like it's not, no offense to Peter Criss or Peter Criss fans, but he's never been one of my guys. But like Ace, yeah,
I'm with
everyone
you.
loves Ace. Like it's weird. Like if I ever met someone that liked Kiss and they were like, "Oh, I don't like Ace," I'd be like, "Oh, I don't think you're a real Kiss fan." But like
No,
I
he was
like,
the heart.
yeah, yeah, like Gene Simmons has a huge ego, but he's a showman and like I love his energy on stage. I think he's a good bass player. Despite all the ego, the arrogance. Paul Stanley's great. I like all those guys. Peter Criss is great too.
Yeah, I'll say the only ballad I ever really liked that Kiss did was "Hard Luck Woman," and that's a Peter Criss song. I love that song, man. You know, like it. It's funny getting ready for this video today. I was driving around, almost like tearing up a little, like singing along to that. You know, it's just fucking something about the energy of that band, dude. Like it. It's like nothing. It's magic, dude. It's like nothing else. It's one of those things you could Kiss is the larger than life band. You know what I mean? If any band was to be that, and like I think Ace and Peter were the heart, while you know the brain really was um, Paul. You know what I mean? In my opinion, like I love Gene, but like his songs I don't love as much as I do in his voice and everything. Like Paul Stanley to me is maybe one of the most underrated singers. Like nobody ever talks about him as being like, but if you listen to Love Gun, dude, I really love you, baby. Dude, it's like the hair on the back of my neck stands up because it's so raw, especially when you listen to the Alive albums, you know, Alive 2 specifically. But fun fact about those, I was saving this for later, but mine as well while we're on the subject of them. I kind of like to get your take on this. So I don't know if you knew this, the Alive albums, dude, they went back in and polished those up after they
Oh,
recorded.
really?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
now that you're telling me that they like, they're not really playing all their instruments and they're lip
Well,
sync.
now, but like back then, I mean, they still recorded the live show. It's totally true. But there would be like a time where just because they were running around on stage, they would be out of breath or something. So they'd hit like a bum note, as they would call it. But Paul Stanley says, quoting him here, if it feels like a live experience, it's a live experience. Do you agree? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. Like it's funny because I just watched this documentary and I'd seen clips of it recently at totally shifting gears here, but some kind of monster, the Metallica documentary about Saint Anger.
Yep.
And there's a clip in the beginning where they're playing Seek and Destroy live, and James Hetfield for the "Looking for You" part, he goes "Looking for you," and he just like it's like totally just like belts the note differently. And I was like, oh, and I've tried to find that recording because I just like ever since hearing that, I just want to hear him sing that part that way now.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. It's funny when you get hooked on something that's like a small, minute detail like that, you know. Yeah, you a Metallica fan too? Big Metallica guy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I like their everything. I basically like everything before the Black Album, which I think is a lot of
That's
probably. I don't know if you feel that way as
still
well,
my
but
take, man. Yeah, dude. By the time you get to "But the Memory Remains," sounds like he's like sipping syrup through that song or something, dude. You know,
yeah, it's
it's not good. And I don't know. Once you put out a bad album, man, like odds are the next few albums aren't going to be that great either. And even when they're okay, like Lux Eterna was or whatever, like why wouldn't I just listen to a new band? You know what I mean? Like I'm not going. I don't need that from you anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
again, you kind of became the villain at that point. But getting back to those Alive albums, man, just like yeah, like I I'm with it, dude. Like I think those are probably the best. If I was to recommend to someone how to get into Kiss, I would say, dude, just rip Alive 1 and 2. You know, because you get there's these like explosions. It's like you can, if you sit there, especially like I always talk about on this channel, man. Like the most important thing to do with any piece of art you're digging for the first time, man, is be present. You know what I mean? Really sit there because you'll start tripping and you're not even tripping, right? You start seeing the colors of the sound and stuff, like, and when you're sitting there and you hear these crashes and these explosions in Alive, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Yeah, oh yeah. It's like it's a totally different energy to the studio albums. And like we were talking about, like I know tons of people who are like the Alive versions of these Kiss songs. That's the version that for me is the quintessential version of those
right,
songs.
100%. There's so Dress to Kill is one of my I have it on a dishonorable mention, you know, or
Oh, really? It's
on my list. Yeah,
not a fan of Dress to Kill.
no, but all the songs that like Girl and what else? There's a few others that when they play them on Alive, I'm like, oh, I love this. There's it's got a spirit that on the studio album, I just don't feel it. You know what I mean? I don't get it. It's a little too like hokey pokey or something, you know. But again, those Alive albums really brought Kiss to life, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's not I'm trying to think and I haven't like I'm definitely like their like original lineup is really where like I think I know some of their stuff, but like the period where like with like Destroyer like up to like Dynasty is really kind of my sweet spot. And even well, what am I talking about? Like their like first like obviously like Strutter Deuce like their first album and so like all that stuff's really good. But like I really like that period where they were like their studio sound was a little bit more polished and
Yeah,
um so like their later like their stuff with like Eric Carr and what was it Bruce Kulick, was it Kulick?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I
Um,
checked out after Ace left. As far as like
oh
guitar,
yeah.
like the rest of the guys to me are. It's not that I don't care. I'm just saying they're hired guns, and like it's that original lineup that really to me. And like I mean, I've seen some behind the scenes footage, and they seem like good dudes. You know what I mean? And I'm happy they
Yeah.
have impact, but I don't care about them the way I do those original dudes. You know?
Yeah, yeah. But that I don't know, there's not many Kiss songs though that I like hate. Like I honestly like as I think now too, I don't know if there's like one I can point out where I'm like, "Oh, I can't stand this song." I just like I love their sound and like to me, when someone says rock and roll, the two bands I think of first are Kiss and Thin Lizzy.
Nice. I would see in my brain it was Kiss. AC/DC was the other one that popped in.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Definitely love them too. But yeah, man, it's funny. Like, yeah, that the Alive stuff is, I think pinnacle. And as we get into the '80s, it's funny they did like Alive 3, and then there was like 4, the symphonic version or something like that. You know, did you dive into any of that later stuff more? I don't know, in preparation for this. I checked out some of it, and I kind of wanted to chat it up about some of those. If you have anything to say about
Didn't
them.
I didn't really. I like I my main preparation for this because we were talking about deep cuts was just like I actually found on Spotify a playlist of Kiss deep cuts. So
Oh,
and it
nice,
was
nice.
kind of by album. So I was like going through and I was like, oh, these like And I didn't really like, I had one of their greatest hits albums, but like, it's weird when you like a band, like I'm assuming we both like Kiss, you don't really like think in terms of like, oh, these are like their standout songs. Because I don't know if you've ever been, you've probably had, hopefully you've had this experience where you go to a concert and like there's a B-side to a song that like is your favorite song. And you feel like, and they don't play it at the concert. You're like, what the hell? Like, why did they not play that song? And you're talking to someone, and they're like, it's not one of their hits.
Yeah, it's
Like
depressing.
like
Yeah.
Pennywise is this comes to mind, but like I saw Pennywise, and one of my favorite Pennywise songs was on Unknown Road. It's called "It's Up to Me." And that you like can never see them play it live because it just was a song that like never like it wasn't like Unknown Road or I'm trying to think what the other hits on that album were. I think Homesick was another one, but like yeah, sometimes you just get attached to that song that is a deep cut. And it just the only time you hear it is on the album. You never hear it when they're playing live.
Yeah,
And
sometimes, dude, too. Like, I think the context of a song can be important. This is why I'm more of an album listener than I am a song, like a track listener. It's funny, like sometimes, dude, and it was one of the things I was trying to like nail a little bit more, especially before I start talking about Kiss. Is like I know their albums so well. I listen to them all the time, I spin them all the time, but sometimes I forget what a song's called because I'm listening to the full album. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
happened with
absolutely.
countless bands where I'm like, oh yeah, dude, like I feel like I can't say I know it because I don't know the name of it. You know, especially some of these like deeper cut metal bands and stuff like that. I run into that way more often. But it's for a good reason, man. It's I'm listening to the whole thing. I want the full picture, you know. And no, I mean, so well, moving on here. Like, I just wanted to ask you too. Like, what do you think are the five? Like, do you have like a five essential Kiss albums if you were to recommend to someone? You know, it can be the lives, the studios, um, or it doesn't have to be five either. Like, if there was three or one, like, where would you tell people to start? You know, if they wanted to get into Kiss.
Yeah, I think like you were saying too, I think Alive is a great place. It's not where I started, and I Destroyer was my first Kiss album. And so part of me wants to say start with Destroyer.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think like Alive gives you like it gives you yeah, a good mix of their range. And I think if you like, oh, sorry, I have Detroit Rock City here in case it
oh,
was a
nice.
talking point. Um, I almost
Oh,
knocked it over. Oh,
yeah.
there, yeah,
Yeah,
look
gotta
at
bust out the physicals, you know.
that.
But
But yeah, I don't like their first album, obviously, has like I think like yeah, like Deuce and Strutter are two of my favorite Kiss songs.
yeah,
And
man, like, dude, there's a lot of going back through that album, dude. It's flawless except for about two songs, and I'm curious what you think of. How do you feel about Cold Gin? I always thought that song was a bit overrated. Um,
yeah, it's not one that really resonated with me. Same with like I think Firehouse is one that people really
yeah,
love. And I'm just like, it's yeah, like I don't like it's not one that I hate, but like it just doesn't move me as much as other stuff. Like again,
yeah,
like Deuce and Strutter, like we were talking about like what like when someone says rock and roll, like those are songs that like I think of when I think of when someone says rock and roll.
yeah.
I
And
think of
it's
like the
funny,
opening to Deuce,
yeah,
the
when
riffs
you
and Strutter. Sorry.
with Alive, dude. No, it's like it kicks in with Deuce. It's funny. You wonder why they buried it so far into the album, especially after you know, like what is it? Kissing, yeah, kissing time and let me know. Like I thought those were see, that's the shit. Sometimes I find stuff with Kiss where I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's just gonna be like a lyric, it'll be like some stupid lyric, usually about like a especially if it's like Christine 16, you're like, oh man, you know. Sometimes you gotta wince your way through some of these. But yeah, dude, and it's funny when they, you know, again with Alive, they'll make that the first song. And again, in a different context, the song totally works better. The first time I listened to the debut self-titled, I was like, you know, and over time it's grown on me hugely, of course, you know, but like I think the best songs are at the beginning and at the end. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, dude, 100,000 Years and Black Diamond, those are, oh man, dude, like the live version, 100,000 Years, dude. Again, Peter Criss drum solo and dude, again, just gives you the chills, man. Again, so good that it's like you, it's past just calling it rock music. It's a vibration at that point, you know. It's touching the soul, you know.
Yeah, no, it made me think of Metallica again too, because like you were talking about like with Cold Gin and like there's people who like when you find someone, especially with a band like Metallica's that has gone through so many changes, and I think probably a lot of people jumped ship uh from like Kiss's new stuff that they were putting out when it hit the 90s. But like I could connect with someone who could be wearing a Metallica shirt, like a Master of Puppets shirt, and I'd be like, oh nice, you like Metallica. What are your favorite Metallica songs? And they're Enter Sandman, Unforgiven, and oh, okay,
Oh, you
we're
don't like
on two totally different wavelengths. And um, but
Yeah.
like yeah, the same thing with Kiss. But even within like that same time period, there's just so many different sections of the wave that someone could be riding. And
Totally.
it's funny that you mentioned like Christine 16 because they have even with like their cheesy songs that like Christine 16, or I'm trying to think of other like
Falling Gospel, you know.
Mainline I feel like is one that's a kind of, would you consider that a deeper cut?
I don't know it, so it must be.
Oh, okay, yeah. But that's one that's it's like kind of cheesy, but I've heard it a number of times, and like a lot of these Kiss songs, even when they're cheesy, they just grow on me, and I like.
Yeah, well, the tongue in cheekness is part of the. I mean, dude. So that's so another quote I had written down because I just been going just for fun, kind of going on a bender too with all the Kiss stuff, watching YouTube videos and stuff. But what was it? Yeah, Ace said something. He was quoted on saying this. One of the things that stuck out to me. He goes, "We like to joke around." You know, he's doing the in an interview, and then
Yeah, that laugh.
yeah, the classic Ace laugh. And so you know, I forget what the interview was asking him. He goes, "Well, you know, we like to joke around because we play rock and roll." And I was like the bell kind of rung where I was like, "So you are aware that this is like." You don't take it like Gene Simmons does, you know, and who knows, maybe Gene Simmons doesn't. That's just his like show persona too, right? Where it's like, I think one of my favorite things is that level of awareness with this kind of music, right? Where it is kind of like corny, but I'm not trying to insult it by saying that, you know, it's actually endearing if you look at it that way.
Yeah, yeah. Like I never seen the full movie, but like what was it? Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
to be a band in a movie like that and be like, I'm okay with this. I feel like you have to you have to have that sense of like, oh, this is this is a joke and this is an act, and we're in on the joke as well.
Right, 100%. And that's kind of again, that's where you get kind of the heart and the soul of the whole thing. You know what I mean? And like, it's a good lesson, you know, too. Like, just maybe in life, don't take your shit so seriously. I think, you know, especially speaking to some of these newer bands and stuff. And again, not talking shit, but sometimes I wish there were a few more ghouls out there. You know what I mean? I don't know if you're familiar with Ghoul,
The
but
Yeah, yeah, like they were kind of they were like metal punk. Is that
yeah,
am I
yeah,
remembering
thrash,
right?
thrash, punk, metal, death.
Yeah, yeah, that
You know
like
what I
I guess
mean?
like
Yeah, they
crossover or whatever you
costumes,
would.
and it's one of those it's one of those projects, man. That's really like tongue in cheeky, dude. Definitely check those out. I think you'll dig them. Splatter Thrash, dude, is just like a peak album. But um, I wish there was more of that. You know, where the over the top theatrics and stuff like that. Like I don't know, that stuff is kind of underplayed these days. And like in my own music, I try and keep that in mind. Like try and like get that you know, whatever that over the topness is, that's a little more like cartoony, like that's kind of what I want to try and bring in more, because I just wish there was more of that character. And again, that stems definitely, I think, from dudes like Kiss, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were, I think it was before we had started recording, but we were talking about that in horror and how we both appreciate that in horror, like a self of sense awareness, the tongue-in-cheek aspects of like being in on the joke and knowing like I think it also plays in, especially with extreme metal or even like a band like Kiss, where like at in the time when they came out, they've got the makeup on, they're wearing the outfits, they're, Gene Simmons is spitting blood, blowing fire.
So sick.
And like if you're projecting such an extreme image to counter that with a sense of levity and a sense of self-awareness, I think is very important.
Yeah, Gene said something about that too. He one of the interviews, he was like, I want it to be, you know, the most shocking thing that moms and your, you know, parents hate, but cannot deny that it is awesome, you know. And again, that's such a it's just such a cool way to look at it, you know. And again,
Yeah.
I would love to see more of that in horror these days. The last I couldn't tell you when the last time a good slapsticky horror movie came out. And like, dude, I like Hereditary and A24, but I think people got a little too carried away with that whole like atmospheric
Yeah,
element.
elevated
I didn't want to
horror.
say it, man, but you said it, the elevated horror thing, you know. It, dude, yeah, on this channel, man, I ream some of the like. I hope you don't like the long legs, you know. If you like it, I'm not judging, but like,
I mean, it was definitely an overhyped movie. I think I like a lot of the Osgood Perkins stuff, and he has, I like that he has his own brand of horror, but I didn't, it was a movie I thought it was good. I didn't love it, and especially not as much as I was expecting to.
I was really, dude. I have a. It's funny. My wife has a picture of me like going into the theater, like running up the stairs like Rocky or like a Snapchat or something. I was so gassed, and it's like coming out of it, just like, all right. Yeah, and again, it's just like I don't know, like I wanted something that, and I find this to be the case with more horror movies than not nowadays, where it's like I do like the kindness and the awareness of an Evil Dead 2 and you know an Army of Darkness or you know like Brain Dead or Dead Alive, you know, like stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's just because it has more it oddly it's more relatable, you know what I mean? And I don't it's funny, dude, being a huge metal and horror person, like I don't want to be depressed watching people die, you know, like it's just like a whole like you know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's when people ask me like why do you like horror? And I think their initial thought is, "Oh, so you really like being scared." I'm like, "No, I don't often get scared. I find horror fun." And like it's movies like the Evil Dead movies and like I would add like Fright Night, Night of the Demons, like those kind of movies that I think there should be some parts that are gory and scary or spooky, but it should also be fun and like a movie that you want to watch. And like Hereditary is a movie, I think it's a great horror movie, but it's not a fun horror movie. Like you watch that movie and you gotta mentally prepare yourself. Like I remember when I watched that the first time I walked away and I didn't even know what to think of it. I was like, Jesus, it's a really dark movie.
Same feeling, dude. I again, me and the wife were in the dorm in college. We watched it on a laptop, and she started when we started falling asleep. I went, you know, and it like shocked her awake, and she was like, "You asshole," you know. And but yeah, again, it's one of those movies. Like, yes, it does. It's effective as horror because um, you know, it gives you that dread, you know. But it as far as a movie and what I'm actually into, dude, I'll take Puppet Master any day. You know, I'll take Castle Freak,
Yeah.
Reanimator, all those. Do you know
Oh
the
yeah.
stuff that like Mortician will sample or something like that. Those old school horror movies always again because of the campiness. But we got to get back to talking about Kiss. We got to do another video sometime and like really on horror because I could spitball about that all day. I did want to get your take on a bit of Destroyer though. So I think one of the best like two song runs, maybe three, is Detroit Rock City, King of the Nighttime World, and Into God of Thunder. Even though I think again, I think we said this before the call, not a huge fan of the song God of Thunder. And then it's fully dead to me by the time you get to Great Expectations. I don't know why
Oh,
they
you're not
like,
don't like Great Expectations, huh?
no,
Is
no.
that
So can you
is that
explain
a
it to
Peter
me?
Criss? That must be a Peter Criss song.
Dude, I think Gene sings it.
You know what? It might be. It does sound like Gene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, let's see if it says it here. No,
I
it
know,
doesn't.
obviously, sorry. Peter Criss did Beth, obviously.
Yeah, another song I really, really don't care for, you know, and that's why, like, I think Destroyer kind of like it's funny. So I made a top five, right, albums of I consider essential for Kiss, and this is on it, even though it's not one of my favorites. I do think that one of the best ways to experience Kiss is that first run with that noisy intro where it's almost like you feel like you're at the dinner table with your dad or something and you're just listening to he's got the radio going in the background. You can like feel the 80s and then the kid what I picture in my mind is the kid gets on his motorcycle, you know, and starts like going off to I don't know, be the king of the nighttime world, you know what I mean, to go do
Yeah.
rock and roll or something. And dude, that run is amazing. But what yeah, it just I don't know. when you get to the deep cuts on this one, that's where I fall off of it. You know,
Oh, really? You didn't like Flamin' Youth? You don't care for and
no, I like Flaming Youth. It's funny. I love the other side. I love Do You Love Me? Shout It Out Loud. I kind of don't care for.
oh,
Uh,
I love
like,
Shout It Out Loud.
oh, dude, that's like the come on down to Kia for the for the
Oh,
lowest.
was that on a Kia commercial?
I don't know. I picture it
Uh,
though. Same thing with I want to rock and roll all night. Like, come on down and get your Ford today. You know, it's almost that like commercial music. Do you remember like commercials with Kiss like that when you were younger?
Not, I mean, like, what's funny is I totally remember before I ever knew who Led Zeppelin was, I remember on the Cadillac commercials, they would have rock and roll playing. And I remember when I got Led Zeppelin 4 and I was listening to like I listened to Black Dog and I was like, oh, it's like the first time I was listening to Led Zeppelin, I was like, such a good song. And then I was like, that second, I think Rock and Roll's the second track on 4. And I was like, oh my God, that's the Cadillac song. I was like,
Yeah.
that's Led Zeppelin?
Well, it's funny how that stuff can stick out to you, you know, like the other circumstance I have with I want to rock and roll all night was that I don't know if it was just in store or if I had it personally, but I'll never forget this toothbrush. It was a Kiss toothbrush, and it would play it when you press the button when you were brushing your teeth. It'd be like, I want to rock and roll, dude. Classic marketing Kiss, you know,
I
always making a
know.
buck, even with what is that, a brand deal with Crest, you know?
Yeah. No, I love there was I think it was on the like the bonus features of Little Nicky, the Adam Sandler movie,
Yeah.
where they did this documentary on metal. And I remember I watched it so many times because I think around the time I saw that movie, I was like really getting into heavy metal. But they have like this heavy metal historian on, if I remember right. But they had all these different bands, and Kiss was one of the bands on there. And that was one of I feel like one of the points where I was like, I appreciate like Gene Simmons is obviously like arrogant, he's an egomaniac, but he's like very aware that he's kind of an asshole, kind of an egomaniac. And there's a part at the I think it's the last scene of that documentary, and he's like kind of signing off. He's like, "Oh, and by the way, buy the new Kiss," and it's just like a shameless plug of like some stupid Kiss. And he's like, "I want to buy my mom a new car," and then he just like smiles, and then it cuts to black.
Yeah, dude. I almost love that though. Like the unabashedly,
Yeah.
unashamed, just like we know what we are and we own it kind of thing. And say what you will about Gene, and a lot of people hate him for that, but that's one of the things I like about him, dude. And as you get older, like it's so funny when you think about the members of Kiss that in that original lineup, where it's like, yes, the rock and roll heart of myself wants to believe that I'd have a great time hanging out with Peter Criss and Ace Frehley. I would want to be in a band though with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause as you get
Oh,
older, you start realizing like, yeah, those guys are great and they are heart and soul and all that. But like to be what they became, to be on a toothbrush, you got to be a little more. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, and that's I like that dynamic to the band where you had like Peter and Ace who were the big party animals, and then you had Paul and Gene who could match their energy, but they also like kept it grounded and for as long as they could. Obviously, obviously the wheels fell off at some point,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it was really it's really cool to see that dynamic and how yeah, like some like Ace is just like super coked out and then like Gene and Paul are having to like reel him in and like I know wasn't there like Paul almost got into it with like Gene or sorry Peter almost got into it with like uh Paul and Gene, at least that's the story, and that was kind of like the end of like there it almost got physical between them and they're like all right, this is we're cutting the cord.
Yeah, I mean, dude, what was it like five or six albums? You know, and it's kind of a long time, short span of time, biggest band in the world. You know what I mean? I don't know if they necessarily
Yeah.
were the whole time in that span, but like, yeah, dude, like a lot of things are gonna fly. So as you get older, I do kind of appreciate those Gene Simmons types more. The kind of stern, focus oriented side more so than the like rock and roll side. And I do not for nothing, they're the ones who carry the legacy. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, say what you will. So when you start getting into some of those albums, like those '80s albums too, like I know the tendency, especially post Unmasked is to like hate it. But one of my favorite albums, dude, I don't know if you're familiar with this one. I think it's one of the most underrated Kiss albums, dude. Animalize.
Wise.
Yeah, look at that album cover too. Isn't that
Yeah, I
so,
know it's great. I
so good?
I there was a period in like probably like middle school, but like I like me and like a couple friends, we would wear like patches, and I don't know if you ever went through a patch phase.
No, man,
No,
actually.
oh, okay, yeah, that was
Poser.
just like but we're this is like yeah, but I remember a buddy of mine, he came like we are at school and he brought out his backpack. He had a bunch of leopard print. He's like, "Oh, dude, I got a big thing of leopard print. You want some?" And like I think he like cut me off a piece so I could like stitch it onto my jacket or whatever.
And yeah, just took that as and it's your animalized patch.
That might have even been like that might have been around the time like I was getting into Kiss, so I didn't even know about Animalize, but like just that
Yeah,
was I think just like stuff like that, like having, animal print on like or like zebra print, cheetah print, whatever, like on
right.
like wearing it like
Like a
was
rock
kind of
star. Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
this a statement against,
Whatever. Yeah.
status quo, whatever
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was. But I remember so I had that experience and then seeing that Animalize album and being like, oh yes. Even
Totally.
though
Yeah, dude.
again I mentioned I'm not a huge 80s Kiss. Like I never really dove deep into their 80s stuff.
Yeah, man, dude. If I don't know how much you've listened to it, but I think some of the best shit they ever did was two albums specifically was Animalize and Creatures of the Night. Do you have any opinion on either? Well, Creatures of the Night because I think that's
Yeah.
most
I mean, I've
bombastic.
heard both. I think of like Creatures of the Night as being like their most metal album. I don't know if
100%.
you would agree with that, but like it definitely
I
had that
would.
more like kind of aggressive edge to it
Yeah,
in
dude.
their own Kiss way.
Yeah, I don't know if. And then I went a little further too, past the '80s into the '90s. They did a grunge album. Did you know that?
No, no, I
Oh,
didn't.
horrible. Yeah, you good.
I'll keep
It
it that
was
way.
bad. Like, what was it?
I said I'll keep it that way. Like, yeah, I don't think I've even tried. Like, I tried listen. Like, I've listened to some of the Unmasked stuff, but like, I have no interest in hearing anything from the '90s from Kiss or up until the present.
How about Elder?
Elder, I've heard some stuff on Elder. It's not like again, hasn't moved me like their earlier stuff, but
Yeah, dude, I listened to that song, the first song on it, Just a Boy, and it was like I was about halfway through the song and I was like, yep, not happening. Turn it off. It's like it's just not worth it. I can't sit through it, man. I just can't, you know.
I'm very curious. There's a couple things I wanted to come back to, but there's a Kiss song that I really like that I believe is a deep cut that I feel like you probably hate. Do you know the song "Talk to Me"?
What album?
That I think it was on Unmasked.
No, man.
Oh, okay, you got to listen to it. I think it's like kind of one of those like cheesy songs like we were talking about, but I find it just like so catchy, and it's one that like I like every like now and then like every couple days and sometimes like a couple days in a row that'll just come in my head and I'll just be like singing along to it.
What's it called, man? I'm gonna write it down because I'm
Called Talk
curious.
to Me.
Talk to me. Yeah, I'll get back to you on the IG about that, you know.
That might be one. Maybe that's an Ace song. I don't know. It's also funny. Like I'm not someone that would like some of them I know who's singing specific songs, but like I remember when I thought Paul sang everything, and I remember watching a live DVD that I had of Kiss, and I was like, oh wow, they're like all singing these different songs.
Yeah, yeah, isn't it funny, dude? Like they do like well, I don't know. It's funny. I feel like I can't unhear Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons vocally is probably my least favorite. He's
Yeah.
got the you know what I mean? That like grumbly style. And not to say it doesn't always work. Again, dude, listen to Burn Bitch Burn, Animalize. You ever heard that one?
I
Dude,
don't I might have, but
man.
like I mean I've
Skip the
listened
road.
to that album front to back before.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
dude.
know
Totally one worth checking out though, again, man.
Okay,
Because
burn.
even
Yeah, we'll
Gene,
have to after this we'll have to exchange like deep cuts or like
yeah, yeah, totally,
essential
totally.
Kiss playlists.
Yeah. So another hot take album, dude. Like, I'd kind of like your take on. This is one of the ones that people get all up in arms about. Dynasty.
Oh, Dynasty's great. Are you Yeah, and that
Yo,
has some of the best deep cuts on it.
oh,
Charisma. Um, is
so good.
X-Ray Eyes on that one?
It is. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
2000 man. The dude, it's like a early punk song almost. You know what I mean? One of my favorite Ace songs. Um, dude, Dirty Living, dude,
Yes,
great
yes.
song. So much good stuff. And obviously, I was no
Hard Times. Hard Times is on that, right?
old time. No, no.
What's
I think
Hard
that's.
Times?
I think we covered all the stuff that I know and like love. But oh, sure, know something. That's
Yeah.
another popular. That's a great tune too. Yeah, man. I don't know why people hate this. They call it disco kiss and whatnot, and maybe I could see that a little bit. But like, I think this is one of the most overhated pieces of music ever. I literally consider it like a pretty flawless album in my probably top three for Kiss. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's so fun.
I didn't even know it was that people didn't like it. Like I assume like because that's kind isn't that the last album before Ace
Unmasked.
and Peter left the band?
Yeah, I think so. It is. It's before. I think Ace did one more, but I think Peter only actually plays one song, on this, and he's got like a ghost player, even though he's on the cover. Uh,
Yeah.
I think Eric Carr did a lot of like ghost work on this album.
Yeah, before they brought, because he was the drummer after Peter Chris. And I think similar, like both with Ace and Peter, whatever their last albums were, they were there for like one song and they were credited, but they got a hired gun to fill in for the rest, like
Right.
play all their parts and everything.
Yeah, but dude, I mean, in my opinion, that's just it's a masterpiece. That's where I got that poster behind me. It's funny. This is like an old copy of this. I found it for like $10 or something like that at a, local record shop, and it had this poster inside. And it's I know obviously you can't really tell through the camera, but it's so nice too. It's like it was such a dope find. But yeah, man, that's always been one of my favorites. And even the most famous song in there, "I Was Made for Loving You," I never get tired of that song, man. I think it's like a timeless classic. You know what I mean?
What's the story you heard? Because I feel like I've heard several different stories of why and how Kiss came up with that song, and I'm curious what version of that story you heard.
I've never heard anything. Why? What have you heard?
I've heard that they wanted to prove they wanted to prove to the studio was like, oh, disco's the new thing, and they were like, oh, I think they were trying to sway them to maybe do something more pop, and they did that to be we can. I don't know if they got in a argument or whatever with the studio, but like basically to be like we can make a disco song if we wanted, and that was them doing just that.
Yeah, interesting. It sounds like them. You know, they were, I mean, kind of the pioneers of being like, again, they had no hit songs and they drop a live album filled with their, like, I guess what people considered their deep cuts, and they made it, and they made alive. You know what I mean? So, like, that's one of the things too that I admire about Kiss is they are the "Oh fuck you, yes we can" band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and that's like I think another thing like when you kind of peel away their egos and everything, like they were a bunch of like dorky kids that were like picked on when they were younger, and they painted their faces, and they would like from the stories I've heard they would like show up at clubs and the club owners would see them and be like, absolutely not, get out of here, you're not playing here.
Yeah.
And they instead of being like, okay, we got to take off the makeup, we got to rethink everything, they're like, nope, we're gonna figure out a way to make this work.
Yeah, and that's the essence. That I mean, I think people are still trying to do that. You know, that's the thing we all chase is like, fuck you. Yeah, I'm the artist. Like this is it. You know, that I know this rocks. You know what I mean? And so many people like don't make it nearly even a quarter of the way as to how far Kiss got with that attitude. You know what I mean? Because that can go one of two ways. You know what I mean? It can kill you or it can make you kiss. You know what I mean? And again, it's one of the things that when I'm listening to it, I really love you, baby. It's just a live version. You hear that soul, and you think about the context of that, dude. Like it it it's spiritual, you know,
Yeah.
not to make it, but what it means more than just it's the spirit of rock and roll, like complete and pure, you know?
No, and there's a lot like as I was going through and listening to this stuff, there's like so much blues influence in that early Kiss stuff too. Just from there, like are
Totally.
you a guitar player?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay, like do you know Theory?
Yeah. What do you
Oh
got?
yeah, I don't either, but like it's the like they like a lot of that early like Strutter and stuff where like they're playing the power chord and I think they're going to the sixth like going on and off, but that blues position
Yeah,
where
I know that classic blues progression you're
um
talking about. And that's one of the initially, dude, honestly, when I was younger, that was one of the things that put me off of Kiss because I never really could get down with those like again, because in my brain, especially being like a Sabbath kid more and stuff growing up, like I was kind of like it's too bluesy, hokey pokey, kind of like and it took me a bit to like get it. You know what I mean? But once I did and could kind of open my mind up to that, and then just realizing what a kind of masterful guitar player Ace was, and how, like, even though it wasn't shred the way we think of shred now, like Dimebag Darrell style or Chuck Schuldiner, or like, like some of the heavier bands that came later, like, dude,
and
Ace was an early shredder.
yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Dimebag because if you ask Dimebag who his favorite guitar player is, he'd say Ace Frehley,
Dude,
and
they
he showed
buried
the
him with,
tattoo on his arm.
yeah,
Or
didn't
I
they
think it was on
bury
his
him with
arm.
some Kiss memorabilia or some shit?
Yeah, I mean he was a huge Kiss fan in that early, have you listened to like the early like pre Cowboys from Hell Pantera where it was kind of more like
Pantera? Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I like that stuff, man. I don't
Yeah.
visit it often, but especially power metal. The last one that they did where they got Phil Anselmo for the first time. Why aren't those on Spotify, man? Come on, this is the
Yeah.
power of physical media. I'm like, dude, those are great. Stop being too cool, Pantera. Those are great albums. Like, I'll say this. I probably like those more than Far Beyond Driven or like some of the other later
Oh,
even
like really when it like got like super groovy. Yeah, my sweet spot for like that era or like ever like Cowboys from Hell for me is just like I think it's got the best of everything on it. Like
100%. I totally agree. Yeah, to me that's it. Pantera is like the Cowboys from Hell, just right from the like that opening riff. It's so like hot or something. Like it's like a summer night in Texas, and you're listening to this like because again talking not again I don't know theory, but he's a real like pentatonic kind of like simple scale dude, but just using those in such a good creative way. I've heard him talk about Dimebag talk about it where he's like yeah, man, I don't be learning stuff like that. I just kind of, fiddle around until, I learn my scales well and I work off what I know, and it's again, sometimes, in any art, like simplicity can really take you a far way.
no, absolutely.
And dude,
We have so
I
much
mean,
trouble. Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, just, I mean, even Ace as a guitar player, I'd say very simple but effective.
Yeah, and that's I'm glad you mentioned that too because I think what's impressive about Kiss too is they have such big personalities and big presence, such a big presence when they're performing, but the music is very focused and I love that like it's one of the first bands I can think of where like they're really letting the track breathe. It's not they have two guitar players, but it's very tight and very intentional what they're playing. Gene has great bass lines. The drums are like, I mean, you can hear so many drummers talk about how amazing Peter Criss is at drums and just how much groove he has. And like, just like really musically, it's just really impressive. And it's like the vocals, like there's so much soul to them, but it's never like too showy. None of the vocals, none of the instruments are trying to steal the spotlight. It's just all serving the song.
Well, they're the perfect example of like using your resources to like even though it's the bare bones guitars, bass, drums, and vocals, like each one of those parts is so pivotal. You know what I mean? To pretty much every song they do, where it all works in such great unison with each other. Every track is so like it's just good writing. You know what I mean? Fantastic, phenomenal writing. Like I don't know how they come up with it. Again for it it seems simple, but I promise you, dude, have you ever like tried? It's almost like the Beatles, like when people try and say like the Beatles are, oh yeah, it's just like that starter guitar stuff. It's like, no, man, that shit's
Oh,
kind of
yeah, not at
intense.
all.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
dude.
I mean they're throwing in all kinds of crazy chords and like Beatles songs. And yeah, I mean, just try learning. Yeah, try learning almost any Beatles song, even their early stuff that a lot of people thought was just like rock and roll that was contemporary from that time. But yeah, they were, I mean, they were like the chord changes they were doing, and they were really really innovating at the time. And I think it's the same with Kiss. And but yeah, I like that I think especially with like bands like from that are kind of showy like this, there's just this like I don't know why, like I think of like Van Halen or even like Metallica and Megadeth, that whole thing. It's like there's they're always just trying to like just spotlight like how great of musicians they are. And that's, don't get me wrong, I like all those bands I just named, but
Yeah.
like I like that Kiss is like that's their personality is one thing and their music is a whole nother thing.
Totally. I've never thought about that, and that's like a really good take. Yeah, yeah. But as far as my favorite, if I might pitch it to you, and I'd kind of like to get your take on this album, my pinnacle go to for anyone getting into Kiss too. If it has to be a studio
Yeah.
album, not alive, I think Love Gun, dude, is. I mean, that's as Kiss as it gets. Look at these guys up here in their element, got a bunch of girls surrounding them. You know what? It's the most like I think of all their album covers, the most like far out. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
spacey and stuff. And I just love what they leaned into aesthetically on it. And a lot of my favorite tracks, Love Gun, kind of like I mentioned, is probably my favorite Kiss song. Got Love for Sale. I actually, that's a Gene one that I do like. You know what I mean? Tomorrow and Tonight, I think, is incredibly underrated.
Yes.
15, 16, I do hate, and I also hate Plaster Caster. But what? Why? You're gonna say
Oh,
something?
I was gonna say like that was one when I was listening to that deep cut playlist. Tomorrow and Tonight was on there. I was like, this is a deep cut. This is such a great song.
Yeah, it is. I almost like feel like I knew that song too before I got heavy into Kiss. And
Yeah.
like so it is kind of surprising that it's a deep cut. I feel like I maybe I just it sounds kind of like some of their other, some of those other like radio hit songs. So maybe I don't know, maybe I heard it and just didn't know, before I was like as deep into them. To be honest with you, man, like I haven't been a Kiss fan my whole life. It took like having being in a period where I had a whole lot of nothing going on, kind of around COVID, where I was just like staring at my phone, you know what I
Oh,
mean?
really? That recent, huh?
Went down a bender, and I was like, again, because I was always ignorant, dude. Like, not for nothing. Like, this kind of, part of my thesis with the channel or whatever, where I'm like, no, dude. So something I say all the time to people is like, dude, you get 0 points for liking less. You know what I mean? Like, you don't
Yeah.
get any more out of being like stubborn about stuff. And it's taken years for me to develop that opinion, dude. But like, I literally like, what would I do without Kiss? It's like,
Yeah. It's crazy. So I like I think I was in eighth grade when I bought Destroyer.
mhm.
And we were talking about this, I think, before we started recording, but I went to Borders, which I got most of my CDs from Barnes and Noble or Borders or used record stores in town. But I remember I went into Borders because I was getting into rock and metal, and they had a little discount booth that had I remember I picked up the Guns N' Roses greatest hits. There might have been another one, but it was Kiss Destroyer that was on there, and they might have been like $5 each. But that was my introduction. And you talked about that the static from Detroit Rock City in the beginning when it opens up the album. And I remember hearing that. Is there a problem with my CD player? And I think I was like I was doing other things while I had my headphones on. And once that hammer-on riff kicks in, I was like, whoa, what? And like that, I mean, again, that album, like it's probably my favorite, but I do love Love Gun. Like those are probably my top two and their first album. But you didn't mention on Love Gun, I Stole Your Love, which is probably my favorite track on that.
Oh, such a bang, such a
Okay,
maybe the best
good, good.
opener track on any Kiss song. Dude, again, one of those things that, dude, it makes me want to go to the gym like now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those songs that's like you want to like sprint when you hear it or something because it gives you that energy.
Yeah, yeah. So I was worried that you were like, no, I don't like I Stole Your Love, but
No,
I
yeah. Not for
Oh,
nothing.
oh, sorry.
Like, give it 2 years on any song I said I didn't like, and next time we talk about Kiss, I'll be like, yeah, actually, it's not bad. I do kind of actually, you know what I mean? Like my
Yeah,
opinions are super fluid, you know.
maybe it'll be like I think I mentioned it earlier, but like I feel like there's been Kiss songs where I'm like, I don't really like this one, and then I hear it enough to where I'm like, I kind of like it's kind of catchy. Now it's in my head and I'm humming it or
Yeah,
um,
that's like their signature.
yeah. But so I had Destroyer and I liked that album a lot. And I remember a friend within probably like I think I was still in eighth grade at the time, but he brought over Detroit Rock City on DVD and we watched it, and this movie made me a Kiss fan. And
Oh
that
shit,
open did you've seen Detroit Rock City?
never.
Oh my God, you gotta watch it. It's never streaming anywhere, so you have to buy it. Oh, it's so good. But like the opening song in the movie is I Stole Your Love. And I won't say any I can't you gotta watch Detroit Rock City. Yeah, it's gonna trust me. I mean you know Kiss and you're a fan now too, but I guarantee this will elevate your Kiss experience, your Kiss fandom to the next
Yeah,
level.
so Kiss like side quests I always get weary of, right? Because of like that damn whatever that 70s or 80s movie that they put out was the Phantom thing,
Oh yeah, Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park or whatever.
yeah, or like the Elder, so like so when there's like detours, like usually I just go and I mean there's Kiss comic books, and I meant to ask you this: are you a comic guy? Do you read any graphic novels or anything like that?
Not really. Like I've read like before The Walking Dead came out, I had a friend that came out when I was in like high school, and I had a friend that had all of those. Like before it was even announced on TV, he was one of those like weird nerds that would carry like all his comic books in his backpack, and it was like bulging and tearing at the seams. And he would carry all those. So I remember like we would finish an exam that we were doing and we had to read, and I didn't have a book, and he gave me The Walking Dead to read, and I was like reading them and enjoying them. But I generally don't read graphic novels. Not that I'm not opposed to it. I just haven't gotten around to it.
Dude, totally worth your time. I started maybe a year and a half ago, like just again being a horror guy. And like actually funny enough, it was a period where I was kind of writing a lot. I was trying to write short stories, so I figured like maybe I could read comics as a way to like see how you could condense a story, right? Just into blurbs. So that kind of sent me down this rabbit hole. Long story short, man, I dude, some of the best horror that you'll ever read, man, and you find in graphic novels from the real classic old stuff of like those ooh type,
Like
like
the EC Comics kind of like
yeah,
Tales from the
100%.
Crypt,
But
Vault of
those are
Horror.
so great and underrated, man, because you know what I liked about those again, they all had a point to them usually. There was like a little moral at the end of each one of the stories and like little philosophies and stuff you get out of those. And I always thought they were so great. But what I didn't know, tying this back into everything, like one of the things that inspired Kiss was Marvel Comics, and they said that apparently, like, and they went on to work with Stan Lee and stuff like that. It's funny. I did a interview on another channel yesterday. And we were talking about the same exact thing. But yeah, like so somehow I guess Stan Lee ended up on a plane or something with Kiss, and he was like, "I'll tell you this: I never partied so hard. Those guys, blah blah blah." And I was like, man, the last thing I want to picture the world's most wholesome man, partaking in, Stan Lee, damn it. But I found it interesting, but also accurate to think that Kiss had some affinity towards like comic books and Marvel and stuff like that. With, you look at album covers like this or like Destroyer and the pop of the colors and like the brightness and everything that aesthetic really makes sense when compared to something like a comic book. You know what I mean? And the characters
Yeah.
themselves. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, and they are characters, and there's it's almost like an alter ego for them, and similar to a superhero character and their character in real life.
yeah. You gotta wonder how much like if you were to sit with Gene Simmons, do you think you'd like him?
I don't know. It's and it's a scary thing. I don't know how many like you've been in bands, like I don't know how many musicians that you look up to you've met, but I'm always nervous because not that I've had a lot of really negative experiences, but I've gotten to play with some bands that I really like and look up to, and I've been bummed out by some of the ways that they react
Yeah,
to.
100%, man. I'll tell you this: musicians are a tough crowd, dude. They are. I became a one. It's so easy just to be a one man black metal project these days, too, because nobody wants to. Nobody wants to play black metal, and I'm in such a niche that and I mean, growing up, and none of my friends were into anything I was into. Not horror, not metal. Not dude. I've been in Army of One the whole time. You know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
I can't really explain why that stuff is good. And sometimes I'll be driving around with a friend, and we'll be like chilling in the car and smoking a bit of weed or something. I'll be like, dude, let me show you something, like check this out. And they're like, oh yeah, nice, man, nice. And I'm like, yeah, it
You get
shouldn't.
the polite, I
Yeah,
hate
yeah. It's just like the nah, never mind. You know what? I shouldn't have done that. Sorry, I
you
killed the
don't
vibe.
get it. You know what?
Yeah, isn't that a
Get
bummer?
out of
Do
my
you know that
car.
feeling? Do you know that feeling? Like, have you experienced that before?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I've been in similar boats where I'm like, you got to check out the song, and like I just recently at work too, I was trying to like no one in the office I work at is into metal, and I was trying to show them. I think I showed them like Master of Puppets. Do you know a band called Annihilator?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Like Allison,
they're
like
yeah, Alice in
yeah,
Hell, like a thrash metal band. I'd call them like a technical progressive thrash metal band, but they have a
yeah.
song called Hero Dies that's my favorite of theirs, and it's like this, it's a journey. And I showed them, and I think I knew it wasn't they were gonna just be like, oh, it's just noise, but I that's like a song I would always be like, hold on, like especially like high school, like smoking weed and like everyone's fighting over the aux cable, and I like get it, and I'd like put on something like Imperial Dies and be like, hold on, everyone, you're gonna get your minds blown right now.
Yeah, vibe is
Um,
dead 5 seconds later, it's like
yeah, and luckily with that, that's actually a song though where like I feel like I've had good like even like non-metal people where I show them that because it's such a such a technical song and it really is it's really just like a journey listening to that song. Think
but
like
I'm gonna write it down. What's it called
okay,
again?
yeah. Annihilator is the band and the song is called Imperial Dies.
Imperial Dies.
Imperial Dies, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely check that because that's one of those bands that I've been sitting on forever. I think Cradle of Filth does a cover of Alice in Hell. That's the only reason I know of them to begin with.
Oh. Yeah,
So
that whole I like that album a lot. And they're one like I feel like a lot of people they have a very small window of stuff that's like really good. And I don't always like the vocalist is um he's not my he's not my favorite, but just like I think Jeff Waters is the kind of the main guitar player and like songwriter in that band and just some of like when they're hitting, it's amazing stuff. It's some of the best thrash metal.
yeah, thrash can be a tough sell, dude. I think it's kind of underrated. Like it's I find thrash harder to like sit down and try and get into than even death metal sometimes. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Because it
really?
is so fast and technical, which you could say both those things about death metal. But like most of the death metal I like is more of like the groove oriented stuff or like some of the, like brutaler stuff. You know what I mean? So thrash to me was always more like just so fast and it doesn't have as many breaks that I feel like it never connected as much. But that being said, like now I feel kind of lucky. I'm like I have a whole genre that I'm not super. Not that I'm, dude. Obviously, I know my thrash, but like some, you know what I mean. Like I know the
Yeah.
classics, like. But it's cool when you have a genre like that maybe you don't love now, but people don't think about it this way. But I'm like, that's a rabbit hole for another day. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's
no,
like
absolutely.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, yeah. Thrash is kind of I would say like thrash in metal. That's like my favorite subgenre.
Oh,
So like
interesting. So you're a
yeah, I
thrash
love
guy.
the speed thrash stuff, and I think it's probably because I came from like I was a punker before that, so
Yeah,
and it had a lot of like especially a lot of that like crossover like
DRI
thrash
and stuff like
stuff.
that.
Yeah, yeah, like DRI and yeah, stuff like that. Like Municipal Waste is kind of a newer band
Oh
I like.
yeah, dude, they're
Yeah,
awesome. Man. I love
yeah,
Municipal.
yeah, I love. Yeah, and that's a good like a good gateway too because they have the really fast stuff, but then they'll break the beat, they'll cut the beat in half and
Yeah, Art of Partying, dude. That's a great album. Dude.
yeah.
There. See, that's what I'm saying. Where it's like I almost feel like I might know newer thrash bands more than I know like the classics sometimes or something, you know, like I love them, you know, they're great. Toxic Holocaust is great, you know, like I like some of that stuff, but and before we get to side quests onto thrash, you know,
Yeah, I can actually, if I may, I can tie this back in. Yeah, it's
yeah,
totally
yeah,
another rabbit hole you can go down for another day. And yeah, thrash is great, but like, yeah, I'm envious that you haven't seen Detroit Rock City yet, because this is I
yeah.
think, and you mentioned it as being like a side quest, but different than like the stuff that's like branded. And I don't know what part Kiss had in the production of this movie, but it almost feels like Dazed and Confused if
Hmm.
everyone in the movie's favorite band was Kiss, because this is just like a stoner comedy about a group of high school kids, and Edward Furlong's in this movie, a couple other people you would recognize. This like it like came out in the 90s, but they're just like trying to go to a Kiss concert, and they're trying to jump over every obstacle falls in their way, and they're just trying to navigate all these impossible and ridiculous scenarios just so they can go to this Kiss concert. And it's
Oh,
great. I think you'll really love it.
yeah, I'm excited, man. I'll definitely check that out. Don't you miss stoner comedies, man?
Yeah.
Long
Yeah.
gone genre. It's been dead for a minute, but what do you think the last of it was? It was probably the Seth Rogen era, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say the Seth Rogen, Judd Apatow, like that. Even like the what's the guy like the Will Ferrell stuff, and I forget like the Adam McKay. Like that was really, I mean, that was the last time too when comedies were really going to theaters, like, and they were big blockbuster movies. They were these tentpole movies. Now, everything just if it's a comedy, it gets sent straight to streaming.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, man. I do miss that again, and maybe it's just part of the times too, where it's like one of those things that again tying it back to Kiss is like that tongue in cheek thing, that self awareness, that like I think you can learn a lot from stuff like that. The stoner comedies all had that, you know, where it's like yeah, it's about smoking pot. Like you could take a movie like Pineapple Express, but at the end of the day, it's more about like the degeneracy of the pot head. You know what I mean? And how it's like you know, like a little more again aware of itself and doesn't take itself so seriously. I miss that in art in general, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and even like to go further into like Pineapple Express too, like that's a movie about friendship and like, being like down on your luck and like finding people that like finding your tribe when you're at your lowest. And but it's, it's dressed up to be the stoner comedy. And I love like a lot of those. Like I'm a big Adam Sandler movie fan, especially his like early stuff, but like all those movies they had so much heart to them, and they were goofy too. And it's like we were talking about with Kiss, like you can feel like even though it's this wild theatrical experience, you can feel the heart in it.
And yeah, that's I think really what we're trying to get at, right? With all this, you know, kind of talking about this kind of crap. Like I miss heart, you know what I mean? And I try and bring that a little bit of that to the YouTube, you know what I mean? Try and you know do it in my own kind of way, in my own kind of art. But like I I hope mainstream art can like take a step back from its seriousness, and maybe some new bands can you know, like we know you're cool. You know, you're in a band. You cool off rip. You know, you don't have to try so hard to be. You know, it's yeah, and yeah, man. I don't know. Like I miss the era when things were a little more uh tongue in cheek and Ace Frehley esque. You know what I mean? Like if everyone could just have their Ace Frehley laugh on a little more. You know what I mean? Just I don't know, dude. I love that whole that to me is probably the most rock and roll thing, right? Kind of in the face of uh the chaos of the world, kind of just laughing and kind of being like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna smoke a J and do my thing, and that's that, man. You know, like end the story there. You know, I don't think there's anything. I don't think there is any other way to view the world, honestly, man. The point that I'm at in life is just like I don't know. You know, like that's it. You know, I relax a bit. Don't
Yeah,
get your
yeah.
ego caught up in stuff.
I mean, you talk about, I think we're referencing the same interview, but when the interviewer is like talking, he's like, "So Ace, what like?" It's like that old interview. He's like, "What are you? Are you like a space explorer?" And he's like, "Actually, I'm a plumber."
yeah. Yeah, dude. That's one of the best. So I was thinking about that, this kind of same topic. It's funny we keep coming back to this because I was thinking about this with those interviews too. I was like, kind of watching the late night talk guy. I was like, this would never fly now. This guy was like rolling with it. Seemed like he had a couple of drinks with him beforehand. I'm like, this is so cool. It's so human. Damn it.
Yeah.
It's like it feels so real. And that dude, that was on mainstream TV too. I heard Frank Zappa say something about this. Like how it was better before it was like I think the rock industry was better when it was just like corporate dudes who didn't care and they were like, whatever. If it makes money and the kids like it, then like. And somewhere down the line, it just became not that. I forget the entirety of the quote, but I always kind of thought about that. Like, I felt like shit could just slide more before, where it can't so much now.
Yeah, like and that makes me think of I don't know if you've watched, I think it was on the Midnight Special, but there were those Kiss performances and a lot of rock bands and like I'll watch them on YouTube and that people have done these great restorations where they put them on there and it looks great and the sound's great. Um but I was watching this is a while back, but I was watching some of those Kiss videos where they're performing and it's so cool to read the comments where people are like, I remember watching this on national television and like Kiss was a mainstream band. Like this was, you could turn on your TV and watch Kiss performing and they've got the makeup on and the heels and yeah, it was just such a I miss that. Like
Yeah.
I pined for the days when and this was a time when I thought rock was dead, but when like Seether and Shinedown and Nickelback was on the radio and like I'm like, oh, I'd kill for them to be like, we need more rock. Like I don't care if it's like butt rock or
That meme
just
rock. Isn't it funny that stuff made a comeback? Creed and all that. You see a resurgence and all that stuff now.
yeah, yeah.
And I think it's because people kind of realize now, again, like that music was goofy, and fun. And like, dude, I'll be honest with you, man, it's fine. I guess I can appreciate it more now. Growing up, I was always like, I can't stand this shit. You know what I mean? Just again, because young, rebellious Justin was, always the opposer, but like nowadays, I think people are going back to that stuff to find exactly what we're talking about. That genuineness, that real, the last band I was in, I mean, we were Propane Light. Shout out to them. It's such a great band name. But
Yeah.
it was just supposed to be backyard barbecue rock. You know what I mean? And we did a bunch of those covers, and people loved that stuff, man. And again, I can't justify putting hours into learning Rockstar. I just can't. I don't
Oh
like it.
yeah,
I
it's
like it as a meme. You know what I mean? But as a real like, I'm gonna sit there and listen to that. I can't quite still. You know what I mean? But at the same token, I am happy to see that people do still like it because, like you said, I miss rock being on the radio, man.
yeah. Oh, likewise.
Yeah. So I guess that's it, man. I guess we can wrap it up there. If the last thing we'll talk about, maybe real quick, the Ace Frehley solo album, dude. If there was
The best one of the solo albums.
only one worth
I think
talking
it's
about, man. And one of my favorite things, Kiss, even though I know Kiss didn't do it, fuck it, dude. Their name's on it. You know what I mean? This is a Kiss album to me. Some of the best. This was like the badass Kiss album. This was the shit that, the dude in the leather jacket standing on the corner, like chucking stones around and chewing on a toothpick. You know, this is what that guy was listening to, like
yeah.
all the songs on here, Snowblind, Ozone, Speeding Back to My Baby, everything but New York Groove.
You don't like New York Groove?
I know I get shit on for that
Oh
all the
man.
time. I know.
It's I mean I like, it's the poppy one on the album.
Yeah, it's the only song I'm not I don't know, it just doesn't click with me, but
That's I no no I get it. That's I mean that's the poppy side of Kiss, but that's I feel like that it sneaks up on you. It's infectious and soon you're humming it and you're like, oh shit, it got me.
that's why I hate it, man. I'm like, God, get out of my head. That goddamn song doesn't leave me alone. It haunts me. But yeah, man. All right, it Wiped Out too. That was one other song I wanted to mention from that one. Oh, so killer. But dude, all right, well, we'll wrap it up there, man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on and talking Kiss with me. It's always
Absolutely.
fun to like banter about a band that you're passionate about with someone who also cares. Because day to day, man, I don't know many Kiss fans.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those bands. There's not a lot of middle ground. There's not a lot of people that are like, yeah, Kiss is cool. It's you got the people that are like, yep, I love Kiss, and there's people that just can't stand them.
Seems like there's more in the can't stand camp these days. Would you agree?
Yeah,
I almost feel like,
absolutely.
crazy to say, Kiss is like almost underrated. You know, I'm like, I think people forget that they are. We all still talk about Black Sabbath and some of those bands in that vein, but I'm like, man, I feel like Kiss kind of gets slept on. So I was happy to be able to do a video and kind of like talk about some of the stuff that, and I hope people, anyone watching this gets a, dude, anything we talked about, go check it out, man. And do tell us what we missed, because God knows they got a lot of shit. Are we wrong about the 90s stuff? Maybe, but I guess that's for next time. So, all right, guys. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. Sam, thank you so much, man, for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Justin. A pleasure.
Hell yeah.